So a few days ago I asked you all what you wanted this video to be about, and 66% of you said that you wanted me to review Unnatural vegan and fully raw Kristina's opinions on depression. Your wish is my command. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you again. Before I jump into the video, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO organic acids, stool tests and consults via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video.
Change your diet.
Oh, and also don't eat processed foods because they have additives and chemicals that are designed to make you depressed.
If you're consuming processed junk foods all day, there are additives and chemicals in there that are designed to make you feel depressed.
Source? Like I'm pretty sure additives and preservatives, whatnot, are used to like preserve food.
So yes, I definitely agree with Unnatural Vegan that the idea that preservatives are added to foods to deliberately make you depressed is absolutely ridiculous. That being said, the purpose of preservatives is to stop a food degrading as quickly on a supermarket shelf. Obviously, if you put a compound into your gut that doesn't want to be broken down and your digestive system has been designed to break food down, then there is always the potential for a conflict of interest. So if we consider something like sodium sulfite, for example, approximately 1 in 100 people are sensitive to sulfites in foods that cause issues such as dermatitis, urticaria, flushing, hypertension, abdominal pain and diarrhea, all the way through to life-threatening anaphylactic shocks and also asthmatic reactions. There are also many people who report significant depressive and psychotic episodes after the ingestion of sodium sulfite and certain other additives and preservatives. So I certainly don't believe it's beyond the realms of possibility that these types of preservatives could be a root cause of depression in some. So I think what is probably happening in these people is that if they are consuming higher amounts of foods containing preservatives such as sulfites, then it can inhibit the growth of beneficial gut flora. Then if the diversity isn't what it should be in the gut, then there is every chance that the short chain fatty acid production in the gut could be diminished. So when you eat fibre, fibre is fermented in the gut to produce short chain fatty acids such as acetate, propionate and butyrate. These short-chain fatty acids then get flipped in the body to become neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine and norepinephrine. But remember, it's correlation, not causation, that lower levels of these transmitters can induce anxiety, depression and sleep issues in some people, and I will cover this off later in this video. So here I think Kristina is way off, and I certainly agree with Unnatural Vegan that for anyone to say that preservatives are deliberately added to foods to make people depressed is absolutely ridiculous. But like I have covered off, there are people with sensitivities to some preservatives that could quite conceivably induce anxiety or depression. So I don't think you can blanket term preservatives as safe or not safe. There will be those who tolerate them and there will be those that don't. And there will be those whose gut flora diversity will be stifled by these type of preservatives, making it more difficult for them to produce the so-called happy hormones. But let's move on and see what else was discussed.
I'm not saying that environmental factors like diet and exercise can't help and don't play a role. There are definitely people who start exercising, start eating well, and their depression symptoms diminish or even go away completely, and that's awesome. But number one, additives were designed to make you depressed is absolutely ridiculous. And number two, we need to acknowledge that there are people who do eat right, who do exercise, who do manage their stress, who do get enough sleep, and they still suffer from depression.
So I understand what Unnatural Vegan is trying to say here, but I think she is missing the elephant in the room. There are lots of known inducers of depression in the body. Bacterial infections such as SIBO, C. diff infections, H. pylori infections, it could be food sensitivities or allergies, it could be pancreatic enzyme insufficiency, or it could be bile malabsorption issues, for example. So what I dislike in Unnatural Vegan's response to Kristina is her general assertion that some people are born or develop depression and there is nothing that you can do about that. So she's trying to turn this into nothing more than a brain chemical imbalance conversation. But here is the issue with that. So there is absolutely no credible scientific evidence anywhere that reducing levels of norepinephrine, serotonin or dopamine will induce depression or anxiety in humans. While some with mood disorders have low levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, many people do not. And contrary to this, many depressed patients have very high levels of serotonin and norepinephrine, and many people with no history of depression have very low levels of them. As I've already stated in this video, there are so many things that can induce depression in the body, so to boil all of that down to a chemical imbalance is very naive. And one of the biggest issues with all of this is that many doctors are ill-equipped with the skill sets to help patients ascertain where the depression is coming from. All that doctors generally have at their disposal is antidepressants, and as we know, for many people with depression, they do absolutely nothing.
I've been dealing with this for a decade and a half at least, eating various different diets, and I have struggled with depression through all of it. The only thing that has eradicated my symptoms completely is drugs. Not pot or anything like that, but an SSRI.
So while I absolutely do think that antidepressants work for some, I think that their benefits are massively overplayed. I also think that the benefits from antidepressants are not coming from the chemical imbalances link, but more likely from their anti-inflammatory capabilities, and let me explain how. So when you have a prolonged inflammatory response in the body, chemicals called cytokines are produced. These include interferon, interleukin, and tumour necrosis factor. These type of inflammatory cytokines can often induce mood disorders, psychiatric or neurological symptoms. Now, we also know that many antidepressants on the market have been shown to reduce inflammatory cytokines such as interferon, interleukin, and tumour necrosis factor. Many antidepressants also have the ability to change gene expression of certain immune cells that regulate inflammatory responses. The proposed theory for many scientists is therefore that antidepressants are effective for some as they help drive down inflammation in the body, and there is a growing body of evidence to support this theory. We also know and see that some people on certain medications are at a significantly increased risk for developing mood disorders. So for example, antibiotics can cause depression in people and is a very well established symptom. Interferon used to treat hepatitis C has been shown to induce depression, as have many contraceptive medications.
I'm someone who takes a pill, birth control pill. Those contain dairy. It's not vegan in that sense. But of course I would consider it vegan because it's a necessity for me. I have incredibly painful, incredibly heavy, incredibly irregular periods. If I don't take the pill, I basically have 2 periods a month. Ha ha ha, it's great.
Now again, I'm absolutely not preaching or trying to say that I know anything whatsoever about Unnatural Vegan's medical history. But there are numerous conditions in the body such as estrogen dominance or polycystic ovarian syndrome that can cause a woman to have irregular monthly cycles. All I am getting at here is that she has taken a contraceptive pill where we know that there are many on the market that induce or worsen depression, and we also know that there are so many other causes of depression in the body. So my biggest gripe with the tone in her video is that she tried a dietary modification and then she took an antidepressant, and that's it. There's nothing more that could have been done or looks into. So just to reiterate, this is not a preach video. If Unnatural Vegan is happy and it's working for her and she is comfortable with long-term medication use, then great. But what she is alluding to here is that this is the destiny for many. How on earth can she possibly blanket term depression in this way when there are so many known causes of depression? Absolutely try antidepressants under your doctor's guidance to help you find your feet. But until you have ruled out numerous other issues in the body, you certainly don't need to believe that your destiny is an antidepressant. Again, the issue comes back to doctors' training and a lack of resources. So if you book an appointment with your doctor and get a typical 10-minute slot to discuss your low mood, then how on earth are they going to have sufficient time to investigate? And more importantly, how are they going to be able to investigate other causes of depression when in reality they are only trained in prescribing a medication?
And it's the same with other kind of external factors. Like there are people who are dealing with depression primarily because of the situation that they're in. Maybe they are under extreme financial strain, or they are in an abusive relationship. I mean, there are people who get out of those situations and their depression goes away, and that's awesome. But then there are those of us like myself who live really good lives, and we have nothing in our life that we would change, and yet we're still depressed.
So Unnatural Vegan is totally correct here. One of the other leading causes of poor mental health is stress of everyday life. If you have significant financial worries, for example, then we know this will put you at an increased risk of depression, and nobody is disputing this. But again, my issue with what she is saying is that once you've looked at diet and you have reduced the stress in your life, the only other feasible option for people is antidepressants, and this is simply not correct. As I've already said in this video, there are so many issues and diseases in the body that can cause depression. So medications, infections, bowel issues, malabsorption issues, the list goes on and on. So for her to suggest that this simply boils down to chemical imbalances is very frustrating to hear.
For people like me, it's not about self-love. It's not about going outside and hugging a tree. Like, it's about fixing our brains. It's about seeking professional help. Sometimes that means just therapy. Sometimes that means just an SSRI. Sometimes it means both. Sometimes none of that works. I mean, there are people who've been dealing with depression for decades who still are dealing with depression. Like, nothing has helped them because unfortunately it's just so hard to treat.
Again, I agree with a lot of what Unnatural Vegan is saying. Some people need antidepressants and some people need counselling and therapy. And she also suggests that there are lots of people who deal with depression who never manage to get their disease under control. And this is again true. But again, unless your doctor is willing or has the skill set to help you find the root cause of your depression, then how are you going to resolve the issue? If your doctor is not prepared to look at the contraceptive pill that you are taking, the food intolerances you are dealing with, the root cause of your IBS, and all of the other issues that can cause depression in the body, then you are always going to be chasing your tail. Anyhow, that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.